If you're looking for 3D tools that use AI to generate 3D models of all kinds, then you are in the right place. In today's video, I will show you the top AI tools for 3D modeling available in the market today. They vary in their capabilities, but I'm sure you will find some of them interesting. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. We're gonna start with Meshy AI, which is one of the most successful generation services to date. In fact, it has gotten some recognition in the industry from the likes of Snap AR, D5 Render, and Sol Chronicle. Meshy offers the ability to generate 3D assets on both images and texture prompts, with the luxury of choosing between different styles, such as realism, cartoon, and even sculptures and voxels. But some would say it is just like any other generative AI tool. This might be true to a certain extent, but the interesting thing about Meshy is the texturing side of things. Because with just simple texture prompts, Meshy could generate any PBR-based material that you want, with a color map, metallic, roughness, normals, and so on. What is more impressive is how it can generate all sorts of styles, such as photorealism, as well as stylized looks or hand-painted style. You can even load your own 3D model and quickly generate some good textures. For realism, it is nowhere near using software such as Substance Painter, but when it comes to stylized art, it can be really interesting. Also, I want to talk about Rodin AI, which brings much needed freshness to the table compared to its peers, and here is why. The biggest problem with AI generation tools is how the topology of the 3D models can usually look like a mess, which makes it a nightmare to animate or impact the performance, such as longer rendering time or even inefficiency when working in the viewport, if it has too many polygons and vertices. The technology that Rodin AI is based on offers the ability to generate some of the highest quality 3D models based on prompts or images, which this industry has seen so far. But more importantly, the final results of this approach is generating quad-based 3D models. But what does that mean? Essentially, quads have been the standard in 3D modeling for ages now, because it is the most reliable way to work in 3D, especially for render engines and 3D software when it comes to optimization and animation. And they are also easier to deform and add details to, as well as being better for UV mapping and texture projection. What's also impressive about Rodin AI is the amount of control it offers. For example, you can choose to generate a symmetrical geometry, one with smooth edges or sharp edges, or even game-ready assets and the number of polygons. Besides, you can also mix between two images and how much each one of them would influence the asset, and even choose the image on which you can base the textures. Next we have Spline, which is a name that you probably have heard of. It hit the scene first in late 2020, and it quickly became a big name in web-based 3D modeling and animation, but many don't realize that it offers an AI-generated service, an offer they just dropped a few months ago, or maybe around a year, and that is to easily create 3D objects within the Spline ecosystem without having to move to a third-party program for all the users following their super or super team memberships. But is it any good? Well, just like many of the other tools in this category, Spline AI lets you generate 3D models using both text prompts and image generation. However, what caught my attention is how text generation typically gives you more of a stylized look rather than going for realism. And this makes it a good fit for any Spline user, because that's usually the kind of scene you will need to create in Spline, at least most of the time. But it is worth mentioning that Spline models might seem a bit low in resolution compared to some of the other tools we talked about, but generally speaking it can do a decent job, especially if Spline is your main tool. There's also Csm Cube. Probably at this point in this video, you start thinking that these tools are cut from the same cloth, with many similarities, which can make it difficult to choose one over the other. However, one thing for sure, you can't go wrong with any of them, and in the case of Csm, the story is no different. Cube by Csm is a state-of-the-art 3D generation tool, and it can be used for different purposes. You can, for example, use it to generate models from images, sketches, or text. But this is not everything, because just like you would imagine, it got some other tricks under its sleeve. This particularly can be observed through its ability to generate different sides of an asset from just a single image. But it can also create consistent style of 3D assets, in addition to characters from a simple text prompt, or even make your own style and choose from a variety of community styles. On top of this, you can also choose from a collection of movements from their animation library to add to any generated character, or make custom animations by entering text prompts. However, this can be more of a hit or miss because the technology is not out there yet, but it still can do a decent job to a certain extent. Next, we're gonna talk about Masterpiece X, another interesting AI generation tool that was featured by the likes of NVIDIA, Forbes, and AWN. The interesting thing about it is that it covers the full asset creation process, from the mesh, textures, and even animation. You can start the process by picking the type of object that you want to create in the form of a 3D character, animal, or object, and then you can simply generate 3D prompts or text. And for the case of characters, you can choose if you want to add bones and even animations. You can also customize the outcome by choosing to generate multiple model variations, and then picking the one that suits you best. Last but not least, we're gonna talk about DreamFusion, a method proposed by researchers from Google and UC Berkeley that is capable of generating 3D models from simple text prompts. Generally speaking, it is a tool. I'm sure many of you have come across this before because it was one of the first tools in its category. The good thing, you can access it by downloading it from GitHub. However, with many advances in this field, DreamFusion can be classified as an ancient technology nowadays, especially when it comes to the texturing side of things. But I think all in all, it can still be a decent solution, especially when we consider the fact it is a free tool that we can use with no restrictions or any paywalls, which makes it a great option for users who can't afford the other options. But on a side note, it does take some time to generate compared to the other tools in this video. And there you have it, guys. If you are interested in these tools, you will find all the necessary links in the description. I hope you guys found this video useful and informative. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. You can also check some of our previous videos. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.